All right, you guys, what is going on? This is your boy Town Biz. So after all that back and forth, exchanging insults, calling each other names, making fun of each other, poking fun of each other, poking fun of each uh, guy's organization, promotional company, they're working together. And the funny thing is, it took basically, for what I see, it took less than a week and a half to finalize this deal where we got a fight between Conor Ben and Ryan Garcia. Now, whether it's considered a high profile fight, that would be up to the consumer. I consider it a decent fight, but I don't consider it a high profile fight, um, you know, because of Ryan's history and just some other things. But say what you want to say about Dana White. Dana White got all these dudes shaking in their boots, and now everybody's playing nice with each other. But due to the fact that Dana White in 6 months was able to do what a lot of these other promotional companies couldn't do within X amount of years, all this hair pulling, all this exaggeration about the other side of the street and all this kind of stuff. So it just goes to show you that a lot of the fights that we wanted to get when we wanted them could have been made, but it was, if it wasn't the promoter, it was the fighter. I mean, it took less than a week and a half to finalize this deal. Now, like I said, will Ryan Garcia's WB title be on the line? I don't know. I don't even know what weight class they're fighting at, but I'm gonna assume it's gonna be at 147. As I said earlier, I was poking fun of the fight that I'm calling it, juiced up, or who got the juice, because we know for a fact that both Ryan Garcia and Conor Ben have been popped for PED use, even though Conor Ben said it, he was quote unquote exonerated, that it allegedly came from some green eggs he took. Now, if you believe that, that's up to you. Now, Ryan Garcia um, took a suspension, you know, for basically, cheating in the Devin Haney fight. And to this day, Ryan Garcia has made every excuse in the book on how that shit got in his system, except for being a man and just admitting that he cheated. And that's just the bottom line. Ryan Garcia is on video talking about he wish he could start a boxing league where you could just openly use that stuff. And then he's elected not to really go forward with a Devin Haney rematch. So, like I said, Dana White is making his impact. So basically, you got the first collabo, even though Dana White said that he didn't see himself working with the other promotional companies. Well, he is. So this fight is going to go down September the 12th, Mexican Independence Weekend at T-Mobile Arena. And it will be brought to you via Paramount Plus in the States. It's going to come on Paramount Plus. I didn't hear anything about Paramount Plus pay-per-view, but you're going to have to assume in the UK and Ireland, it'll probably be pay-per-view. I don't know if they got Paramount Plus overseas or whatever the case may be. Um, it's going to be interesting to say the least. I can't wait to see who's going to be featured on the undercard. So once again, this is going to be Zupa's first, major event at a, arena. Now, who am I going with to win this fight? Well, basically, I don't really care who wins this fight. It's not like I'm going to be rooting for anybody to win this fight. I'm not a big fan of Conor Ben, and I'm definitely not a fan of Ryan Garcia. So it would serve me right, and I would feel good if Ryan Garcia and Conor Ben basically did what happened in Rocky 2, where they basically knocked each other down. And maybe both of them hit themselves with a punch that floors both of them, and they don't make the 10 count. So, but I guess one little speckle of me might be going for Conor Ben just a little bit, because I just don't care for Ryan Garcia. I'm not a Ryan Garcia fan. I won't ever like Ryan Garcia. The fact that Ryan Garcia has gotten a complete pass for what he did as a fighter, in which cheating versus Devin Haney, and then that stuff he said, that extremely racist stuff, and the fact that you got dudes that still want to go around him and be forgiving towards him, and they're black like me, says a lot about them. But these are the same niggas that will get mad at you if you so much step on their shoes or look at them funny. Like I said, a lot of these black men and black women got it ass backwards sometimes, and I have to admit that. But yeah, Dana, Dana is making his presence felt. So once again, due to the fact that in 6 months of Zuffa Boxing, that Dana White is going to be co-promoting, you know, I guess you could say a event like this, and I guess you could say this is a big event for Zuffa. I don't know who's going to be the lead promoter, but once again, along with Golden Boy, um, I guess you could say Dana is doing big things. But if you really think about it, within the last year, Dana is part of some big fights. You know, going all the way back to Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor, and then last year Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. But this is kind of like the one that's gonna put you know some serious notoriety in the direction of Zuffa Boxing. And like I said before, I'm not here to, you know, I'm not here to be sitting up here overly, on Dana White's, sack, but you got to get a man his credit. And just 6 months of Zuffa, he's able to make a fight like this. You know, I'll say I'll say a decent profile fight. I'm not going to say a high profile fight. Now, Bud versus Canelo was a high profile fight, but yeah, 6 months where it took us. I mean, good grief, like it took us pretty much 5 years to get Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. It took us, geez, it took us 6 years to get Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. I mean, it just took too long for certain fights to happen. We never got Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. And like I said before, as a media member, all you heard was excuses, excuses, excuses. Oh, this can't happen. That can't happen. Oh, it's the networks. How is it that Paramount Plus and the Zone were able to figure it out? Like I said before, if we were able to get Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis, where it was a joint venture between HBO and Showtime, like I said, all that stuff that you was hearing from these fighters, X amount of years ago, it was cap. It could have been done. It could have been done. But you had the unwillingness of whoever involved, the promoters, the fighters, who knows, et cetera, et cetera. Like I said, the reason why Al Heyman got kicked off of all these platforms, from Fox to Showtime, which ironically Showtime / Paramount, basically after cutting off basically the PBC for about a year and some change, they went right back to boxing. So remember, Paramount owns Paramount, CBS, Showtime. They're all under the same umbrella. So that stuff about them getting out of the boxing business, well, only to turn right back around and get back to boxing business. It wasn't because they were tired of boxing. It was because they were tired of Al Heyman. Hey, what's up, CB? CB, I'm going to text you, bro. Hey, CB, see what I'm talking about? Me and you, and this is my boy CB. We used to always be talking about this on the phone. Look at this shit. Dana White then did in 6 months what we waited to see for years, that we couldn't get none of the fights that we should have got when we wanted them. All this crap about networks and oh, he fight for him, he fight for this dude. It was all cap. It was all cap. How does Dana White in 6 months, Zuffa being official, which Zuffa was really official last year. That was really the first Zuffa event, Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, because The prime promoter, the person that handled the media, because keep in mind I'm a media member, you had to go through UFC media to get credential for that fight. So that just goes to show you all this stuff that we heard from our so-called favorite fighter, it was cap. It was cap. And basically it took a week and a half to get this fight negotiated, signed, sealed, and delivered. Where you have other fights, it's taking 3 months to negotiate. I don't know, a minimum. And then you got Shakur Stevenson playing his games. Like 1 minute he says he signed on the dotted line, then he said, "Oh, I signed the contract." Shakur got to stop lying. Got to stop lying, man. Well, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, they got money to work with. They got billions to work with. But as I've been saying before, money talks. So from this point on, I don't want to hear nobody saying that no fight, it's impossible to make this fight. Because listen, it's a wrap now. As far as the PBC, top rank, Golden Boy, um, Queensberry, Matchroom, all that stuff, that's dead now. That's Elvis. It ain't none of this stuff about, oh, this fight can't be made because he fight. Like for real. I never heard Larry Holmes. Keep in mind, I'm 50, 51 years old, going on 52. I never heard Sugar Ray Leonard or Larry Holmes or none of these dudes and Hagler, Hearns and Iran Barkley, those type of dudes, Aaron Pryor, Mike McCollin, the early days of Roy, those type of dudes, Bernard Hopkins, I never heard them dudes try to get all technical when they was asking them to fight certain guys. I never heard them talk about, hey man, I can't fight. I can't fight Michael Speaks because Michael Speaks fights for HBO. I'm on Showtime. I never heard that, but then you just saw in the 2010s, really after 2000, after Floyd Manny Pacquiao, you just really started to hear that crap, and it just got nerve wracking. It got on people's nerve. The fans got frustrated, and then a lot of them ended up walking away, saying, you know what, the hell with this boxing shit. I'm gonna say this again. I'm not really involved. I don't really care about the stuff, the politics of the Muhammad Ali Act and all that kind of stuff. That's between the promotional companies and the fighters. My job is to go cover these fighters, cover these fights, and give y'all the best media coverage possible. Now, I'll say this much from me being a consumer and et cetera, et cetera. I don't ever want to hear, and I don't like to hear about nobody getting screwed out of money or just tangibles. No, I don't like that. But as far as me getting super and overly involved and invested in that stuff, that, that's not my, I don't like it. I'll say if anybody getting screwed, I'm not going to sign up for that or be down for that. But at the same time, when they were having these hearings, you didn't see these fighters going to Washington, D.C. Oscar went. Nico Ali was the only one that went. The only Ali that went. Layla Ali was nowhere to be found. But she's always bragging about being an Ali. But she was nowhere to be found. She was somewhere making those nasty ass, meals that she be displaying on her on her Instagram or YouTube channel. So I'm just keeping it 100. So yeah. So I made it known I'm not a fan of I'm not a video is definitely as far as Shakur Stevenson goes. I don't Shakur just Shakur. I mean, I've never seen a dude that blatantly lie. That's just not a good sign when you see a man lying the way Shakur Stevenson lies. And then when Shakur gets called on his lies, he try to say people don't know shit about boxing. Well, I know enough. And he loves saying, oh, well, people ain't never put on a pair of boxing gloves. Well, it's the difference between street fighting and fighting in the ring. You absolutely right, Shakur, because you know who's at more risk. I'm the dude that's more at risk in the street fight because if I knock this dude out or if I knock this dude down, I don't know how many people may come out of nowhere and start trying to fight me. I may end up fighting 3 niggas instead of 1 or 4. And it ain't no referees. It's not it's not no 3-minute rounds. You got to go for broke right then and there. And also, you don't know if you get the best of this dude and he see you somewhere and he see you before you see him, you don't know what's going to happen after that. So that's the difference. You got a crowd, you got a referee, you got judges. You ain't got none of that stuff in the streets. So for him to just sit up there and and say people don't know nothing about boxing because they disagree with him. Listen, I respect what Shakur Stevenson does. I'm a boxing purist, but they have been some times where you wanted Shakur Stevenson to go for the gusto and go for the stuff. He should have stopped Teofimo. Teofimo was begging to be stopped, and he played it safe. He had Teofimo like pretty much begging for him to put him out of misery, and he let him off the hook. Yeah, that's the thing. You said you was pushing him back. Okay, you should have been teeing off on him up against the ropes. That's the thing. You don't like to take chances. That's cool. Okay. You play it safe, but at the same time, you got to understand there's going to be people that's going to criticize you. Say what you want to say about Andre Ward. At least Andre Ward, his last fight, he finished Kovalov. Andre Ward, if Andre Ward thought this dude was finished, he'd finish him. He saw Chad Dawson was finished, he finished him. He saw Sergey Kovalov was finished, he finished him. Shakur could have far more knockouts if he wanted to take more risks. At the end of the day, he want everything to just, sometimes you got to get your hands dirty. Say what you want to say about Terrence Crawford. I just got through watching Terrence Crawford versus Gamboa. Terrence Crawford took some chances in that fight. Terrence Crawford got hit. Terrence Crawford lost the first 4 rounds versus Gamboa. He got touched up. He got hurt in that fight. He took chances. Every once in a while, you have to take some chances, man. For real. Sometimes you're going to have to bring it to a dude. Even with Floyd. Floyd, he brought it to Canelo. He brought it to Sugar Shane Mosley. He brought it to those dudes. I do think that Floyd, I think Floyd could have stopped Shane if he wanted to. Floyd admitted that he could have stopped Canelo. So Floyd to a certain degree, but at least Floyd did give us enough action. Floyd gave us enough action along with defense to, basically make it a decent and solid fight. And you saw that with Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford always would be in the line of danger. He went toe-to-toe with Gamboa, and that's what made and established Terrence Crawford as a star. He got Gamboa out of there. He took risks. He took risks with everybody. He was right in the thick of things with Errol Spence. So if you see fights where Terrence Crawford got touched up some and got hit because he took chances. And that's what made Terrence Crawford what he ended up being as a fighter. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people have with Shakur Stevenson. Listen, it's cool to look good and dominate, but sometimes you just want to see him, you just want to see him finish dudes off. Me even being a boxing purist, sometimes I would want to see these dudes. I would rather see these dudes get some of these guys out of there. And then the thing is about Shakur, another thing that bothers me, like I'm gonna say this, he had the same problem that a lot of these other fighters have. Shakur Stevenson always getting on these platforms talking all greasy and shit about these black fighters, but then these non-black fighters, he be passive. So I'm just saying, have that same energy that you have towards these non-black fighters that you had towards the black fighters. Now, the situation with Shannon Sharpe, it was funny. It was funny. It brought some notoriety to Shannon Sharpe. It went viral. It had everybody who usually don't cover boxing talking about boxing. So it was funny. So it was, it was some good publicity and favor of both Shannon Sharpe and Shakur Stevenson. Boom. But anyway, let me reset. Just wanted to speak on that. Got a few more of these to do. Be back.